are capable.
But in America they are, in Israel they are.
So there are forms of orthodoxy that are capable. I mean, there's an Orthodox rabbi in Los Angeles named Rabbi Yosef Kaneski. And he said the following. YU guy. He's a YU Orthodox rabbi. He says the following. The RCA, the Rabbinic Council of America, is the Orthodox body of of Orthodox rabbis. It's the organization. And they recently rejected reparative therapy. You know what reparative therapy is, right? Okay.
What is it?
So it's therapy designed to change a person from being gay to being straight. So they decided finally to not recommend it. And he wrote that the moment that happened, it was that we turned a corner, he said. He said, once a person is not obligated to make efforts to change because it's not possible really, then we have accepted, more or less, that homosexuality may very well be a feature of the human condition. And therefore, we have no right to make gay and lesbian Jews suffer emotional, physical pain for our theological comfort. We cannot make gay and lesbian Jews suffer physical and emotional, psychological pain for our theological comfort. So that's amazing, to consider homosexuality a feature of the human condition. That is language that is not common among Orthodox Jews. But it's happening in Southern California, in an Orthodox synagogue. So things are beginning to move because people are recognizing that increasingly, look, I'll give you another model. 25 years ago, in the language of Rav Moshe Feinstein, homosexuality was demonic. It wasn't sin even, because sin is easy. No, this was like numar lahachis. It was a rebellion against God, a demonic rebellion against God. Then rabbis decided, no, not really. It's just a serious sin, and it's an addictive, yetzer hara, and people have to fight it because it's a terrible sin. But it's not demonic. It's an ordinary terrible sin.
No, compared to,
Huh?
I spoke to thousands of Orthodox rabbis, they all say the same. They say, como se fosse viciado em droga, or viciado, or even someone that's like, he likes girls, and he has his wife, but he cannot keep looking to others' wife.
They think of it as an addiction. Well, so that's in the middle, because demonic sin, regular sin, and it's regular sin. You're absolutely right, Razo. That is seductive. So therefore, and the culture, participates. So this is a sin which seduces people, makes them crazy, right? And that's the terrible sin. Then they moved to a space where it was sickness. And not so sinful, but sad and sick, and therefore have pity on them. And now, after the recognition that it can't be sickness because it can't be cured, so they're beginning to realize that it's just ordinary difference. It's green eyes, it's left-handedness. It's just the way a minority of the human beings are built. A friend of mine who's a Catholic priest who was defrocked because he came out, James Allison, wrote a book called Beyond Resentment, Fragments, Catholic and Gay. It's an amazing book for Catholics. And he once said to me, it was like 15 years ago, he said, Steve, when they realize that homosexuality is a non-pathological minority expression of ordinary human sexuality, everything will change. a non-pathological minority expression of ordinary human sexuality. Now, I think he's right. But here's the kicker, and I want to be honest with you, is that many people are fearful that a minority sexuality let loose might be destructive. And I think that's their fear. Their fear is that if we allow homosexuality its space, it will be like a
fever.
Huh?
Spread out.
It will be a fever. It'll
Yeah.
spread out. It'll infect marriage. They have a kind of doomsday portrayal that legitimating homosexuality will like bring Sodom and Gomorrah down upon us, right? And so instead of laughing at it, I think it's extremely important for those of us who are on the other side of that view to understand. My aim as an educator is always understand your opposition deeply. Because I want to understand how that fear operates, what makes it seem credible, and how we resist it. So I work a lot to try to figure out what are the best ways people can relax about a minority sexuality. And one of the ways that I think is to turn the discourse away from sex and onto love and marriage. And that is exactly what is occurring right now in the US. Is that when you see gay characters, they're in Modern Family. And what are they? Two men raising a little girl. And that's what my partner and I are doing. So
beautiful.
why is that, or in Israel, the Gay Pride Parade, big poster in Jerusalem, in Tel Aviv, two men on a picnic blanket with a little boy, a little kid, a little baby. So why are these images there? Because people want to convey that this sexuality is not intentionally ending gender or family. It is just expanding those terrains. So I think that that's actually how the communities are attempting, and still the religious right is still claiming that marriage is in danger, and, but I think that that's exactly where when I write, I'm trying to write toward a kind of more conservative portrayal of what gayness is. And some people in the gay community want to sustain a kind of, they consider me an assimilationist. Because I'm assimilating into the heteronormative model, right? Whereas what they want is transformed sexuality, right? So I'm clearly on the more conservative side of that debate.
Some of the rabbis say that I spoke to many Orthodox rabbis about this issue, and they told me that you cannot do good, you don't continue answers. So
Yes.
that's the main thing they say.
Well,
like you cannot produce
Right.
kids, and then that's why if everybody decides to be gay, so it's over. That's what they told me. Like it's hard.
Yeah, well, firstly, the planet is getting overcrowded, so if a few fewer would have kids, it wouldn't be such a terrible thing, that's A. B, people want to have children. Our desire for reproduction is not getting weaker anyway. So, I don't think it's a realistic fear at all. And anyway, I think look, I want to finish this to some of you I know. They want to leave. It's a school night, right? It's not a weekend. Friday night, I will be with the rabbi, and I just want to say a few words about that. That I will be telling a little bit about my personal story. It'll be fun. It'll be open, and so we invite you to that, and invite anybody else you want to bring. And then, Rabbi Bonter, do you want to talk a little bit about Sunday, because you probably express it better?
No domingo, às 4 da tarde, nós vamos ter um pequeno painel aqui, que a gente vai ter a presença do Carlos Gibson, junto com o Amigo Grimmer, e também nós vamos ter de São Paulo o Ari Tepperman, que é responsável pelo primeiro grupo, né, judaico gay, né, e eles têm uma organização em São Paulo. Então, ele vai estar aqui conosco, ele vai estar também nessa sexta-feira no Shabbat. E vai ser um painel sobre, eu acho que um pouco mais sobre toda essa tentativa de trazer essa compreensão que o Rabino Weber acabou de mencionar, do quanto isso tem a ver com um mundo diferente que a gente está tentando trazer, um mundo de mais compreensão das minorias, e obviamente aqui a gente vai estar tratando dessa questão. Vai ser aqui no Midrash, nesse mesmo lugar, e estão todos convidados às 16 horas. Vai ser uma conversa, né, que a gente vai trazer. Hoje a gente ficou, na segunda-feira nós ficamos mais na questão bíblica, foi um momento mais acadêmico, intelectual, que o Rabino Greenberg explicou, principalmente o versículo que aparece em Levítico, que condena, né, e diz que é uma abominação a homossexualidade masculina, e ele fez uma apresentação super interessante sobre como ler esse versículo de uma outra forma. Isso foi na segunda. Hoje foi uma maneira da gente entender um pouco, através do filme e dessa exposição que ele fez, entender um pouquinho da comunidade, desse esforço, né, que é duplo, não só de pessoas que querem ser aceitas na sua escolha da sua sexualidade, mas dentro de um ambiente onde existe toda uma complexidade, que é um ambiente ortodoxo, e é um pouco o que a gente viu hoje. Amanhã a gente vai estar celebrando simplesmente estarmos juntos, e vamos ouvir um pouco da história pessoal do Rabino Greenberg. E no domingo é um momento mais para falar sobre o ativismo, sobre de que maneira essa questão, que é uma questão de minoria, eu acho que ela abre uma questão muito importante, talvez em torno, speaking English from now on Sunday, I think we should focus on what does this whole discussion brings to everybody, not only to the gay community, but how this is a discussion about mainly what is that fear, what is this fear has to do with the well-being of everybody, how to do away with that fear can help everybody, pode ajudar todo mundo. Então é uma conversa mais universal. Nós vamos ter o Tufsan, que é um ativista, nós vamos ter o Steve, que tem a história dele, nós vamos ter uma pessoa da comunidade judaica, e vai ser também we'll be sharing, it's not just a panel, we'll be sharing with everybody, and it will be just a conclusion, because Rabbi Greenberg will just be flying from here back home, ending this week of study with us and being with us.
So I just want to thank you all for being here. I want you to know that it's a very precious thing to be part of this film. I want to tell you one last story, because I've got 100 stories from 500 different screenings. You can imagine from the time in San Francisco that David was, in San Francisco with that rabbi on the panel. So I'll tell you that story and one other story. So David, it's the Castro Theater in San Francisco. It's like 450 seats. You couldn't get a seat in the place. It was just like it was the opening night of this film in the Castro. That's San Francisco was like, gay America. And I mean, it was amazing. And there was a whole group of us in the film on the panel, and the rabbi turns to David and says, "I've come to tell you I'm sorry. I should not have sent you on that journey without accompanying you, and I abandoned you, and I have to ask you forgiveness." Very moving. And you could have heard a pin drop. And then David said, "Thank you, Rabbi, can I have a boyfriend now?" and people are like, and the rabbi said, "No." And the crowd, this is a gay crowd, so they were cheering, when the Speed Challah lesbian collaborating was happening, and they were like they were a very expressive group, right? So they began to boo, like we're ready to lynch the rabbi. And I got up and I said, "Wait 1 minute. Rabbi Langer didn't need to come here. He came because he wanted to share with you that he felt like he had to ask David for a public apology. And I want to tell you one thing. He's very honest. He didn't need to be in front of you." Oh. Hello. He didn't need to be there. See, he loves David and he's responsible to the tradition. And he was willing to come in front of all of you and say, "I am stuck." So I think you got it. How many rabbis are willing to get in front of you and say, "I'm stuck, I don't know what to do"? So he deserves a round of applause for that. So he got his applause, and then I said, "Let's do this again." And he said, "You're on. We're going to have a Shabbos for everybody in this space." And they did. Like 6 months later, we had was called Friday Night Live in the Castro. And we invited all the queer community and all the Chabad communities, and everyone brought their partners that were non-Jewish, and there were rabbis of different denominations, and there were even, it was a whole amazing crowd of people, trans folks, and you can imagine the scene. There was like 125 people, and they pulled a string down the middle with a curtain separating for Mariv, and some, Chabad guy, terrified, goes to the rabbi and says, "Rabbi, what do we tell the trans people to do?" And the rabbi said, "Whatever they want to. Whatever they want to." And then at the end of the service, there was this big meal, and it was incredible. And the rabbi gets up and pounds the table and says, "I have no answer for the problem of the verses in Leviticus. Let's have Shabbos." And it was amazing. People got up and spoke and gave Divrei Torah, words of Torah. And it was like, it was an unbelievable moment that never repeated itself. But it was just this incredible, only Chabad in America could do. So that's one scene that happened. And then the other scene I want to tell you is a little, it was in Germany for the film festival in Berlin. And I am the child of, which you'll hear on Friday, I'm the child of a survivor. My mother is a survivor. So I was always afraid of going to Germany. But I actually had a surprisingly warm time in Berlin. And I'm at the film festival, and I always, when I hear German, it's like hard on my ears because I'm always, I'm hearing my mother's story in this whole way. And the guy who's fielding questions and translating is a 6 foot tall, Aryan, bright white blonde hair. And he's not calling the little Jewish guy in the front. Like he keeps missing him. And I keep pointing him, and he finally says, "Okay, you." And this little Jewish man steps up and says, "Good evening. I am a survivor of the Holocaust. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about going to shul with my father in Poland on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And I remember in the back of the shul, a row of men who were sitting without talis and crying. And I asked my father, who were those people? And my father said, those are the Rashoyim, those are the wicked ones. And he said, of course, you understand who these men were because you're not allowed to wear a talis till you get married. So this is all the men in the back who were older and single, meaning not married, meaning gay. He understood for the first time that conversation with his father was about a cadre in the 1930s of gay men sitting in the back of a shul in Eastern Europe, crying. And he said, for the first time, I understand. And you have made a very holy film because we are all God's children. Thank you and bless you. we said that. So I was like, checking because I had never, like, what was it like in Europe in the 1930s to be gay? So it meant, like, what world did you have? What life did you have? Like, we don't have any records of any of that. So one of these things, one of the experiences that this film gave me was a sense of awareness of how the gay people who are living in this moment, we actually have a responsibility to carry on our shoulders those men in the back without talis who were weeping. Our commitment to making that back row no longer a tearful place is really profound. And many people's lives were ruined by a misunderstanding, in my view, both culturally and humanly and religiously. And we are making a change that I think is so late in coming, but so desperately needed. It's a pleasure to spend some time with you. I hope the film still begins to play in your mind in different ways. You should know that there is a follow-up film that we can, I don't know if you can have it here, maybe you can leave it at the Midrash and you can rent it out or give it out. It's a film that was made after our tour. Sandy brought little pieces from these 500 different screenings and created a Trembling on the Road that is about a half hour long. And while this film is dark, this is a sad film because people are in a lot of pain in this film. Trembling on the Road is not dark. It is joyous and sweet and funny and wonderful. And so perhaps as a sequel at some point in your exploration, you can find an opportunity to share that story. It's been a pleasure being with you, and I look forward to the rest of the evening.
Doutor Nilson, seu Silvio, doutor Nilson, pessoal, chega o doutor Nilson. Ele beijou muito tempo. Como foi lá na sua?
É, no conheço que eu enfiei.
Ele botou como se Ele sempre quis ver o rapinho.
Tem dois aqui.
He's happy here, but he's not.
Carol!
Você jogou agora.
Você joga?
We're just gonna get the party music to
All right. Size your stone. Yes. It's just not finished. It's not. It's
Ah, eu vi agora hoje.
Não, mas não era assim,
in South America, it's like gender and sexuality.
Yeah. No, but it's, I also enjoy it. No, the Orthodox thing is
Eu adoro fazer que a gente... Eu adoro aquela cena.
Mas eu posso vir aqui nesse assim, né?
Sim, Renato.
Não, sim, é que eu me dá.
Ah, isso, cara.
Não, não tem problema. Ah, você me ligou? Você fala com ela.
I'm hoping that on some level, this is because if you're the HCE, you know, men are this, women are that, marriage is this, because people will find that they can't live extremely. So I think
Nada, imagina.
but it has to be more, it has to be.
Nós queríamos,